making this miniature quick trip quilt. It's the perfect size for a wall hanging or a table runner. And the pattern is from Quilt in a Day and Eleanor Burns. And I'll put a link in my show description for the book. And if you like the pattern, you might consider buying it. And I'm not affiliated with the company in any way. I just love this pattern. So let's get started. I'll show you how to make it. The first thing you'll do is choose 6 coordinating fabrics. And fat quarters are perfect. If you have a fat quarter bundle, that would work really nicely. And arrange your fabrics and number them 1 through 6. And arrange them in the order that they'll appear in your quilt. And I've chosen some batiks for my project for today, but the sample project was used with a fat quarter bundle from Wyndham Fabrics called Orbit. And I'll just show you here my fabrics where this was number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you'll notice that fabric number 1, my blue, and fabric number 6, the white, meet up at the top of the quilt. So you just want to make sure that your fabric number 1 and 6, you like the way they look together. From each of your 6 fabrics, you'll be cutting 2 strips at 2 inches wide by 21 inches long. I find it helpful to take a photo of my fabrics with the numbers next to them. I have my 6 fabrics cut into 2-inch strips by 21 inches long. And all I've done is made one group here and one group here. For both of the groups, you'll do the same exact thing. You'll take fabric number 2, right sides together with fabric number 1. And then fabric number 4 will go on top of number 3, right sides together. And then fabric number 6 on top of fabric number 5. And now a 1/4 inch seam allowance here, here, and here. I have my 1/4 inch presser foot. I'm using my leader fabric, and that will prevent the bobbin thread from bunching up underneath my strip set here. And there is a little extra on these strip sets, so you don't have to worry about lining them up exactly. And again, 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down. And I'll feed my next strip set right through. And to press, you want your even numbered strip on top. So I have here my strip number 2, 4, and 6. You just set your seam and then press toward your even numbered fabric. And I'll repeat that with these strip sets. Again, pressing toward my even numbered strip. Now that they're pressed, you do the same thing. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and you simply right sides together, 1/4 inch seam right down here. After that's sewn together, you'll place your final 2 strips right sides together, 1/4 inch seam, and I'll do that off camera. Now that I have the 6 strips sewn together, I need to press again, and this time I'm going to press from the back. It's just a little bit easier. And you just want to press your 2 seams that you just sewed in the same direction as your first pressing. So it's going in this direction, so just give it a little tug. You don't want to distort the fabric, but you just want it pulled so you don't have any folds or tucks in there. And then I'll give it a nice press on the right side as well. Now that I have my first 6 strips sewn together, I'll repeat that same exact process to sew my other 6 strips together. So I'll have 2 identical strip sets, and I'll sew those off camera. I have both of my strip sets sewn, and I did want to mention that on my second one I also pressed toward the even numbered strip. So now all you do, we're going to make a tube. So you take strip number 1 and fold it to match strip number 6, right sides together. And then I'll repeat that with this one. And we'll take it to the machine, a 1/4 inch seam allowance, right down here and right down here. I have it all matched up. And as I go, I just I don't pin these long strips, but you can if you want to. So I just kind of go down here, hold them together, make sure they're all lined up, and then just hold it and then sew. And then stop and just repeat that. So I'm just kind of holding it with my fingers instead of pinning. And I'll repeat that with my other strip set. And you'll notice, if you carefully look, that the ends don't exactly meet up, but that's okay because we're going to trim this and even off the edge anyway. I have 2 identical tubes, and I'll just show you what that looks like. And I have my number 1 fabric here, and I want to even out this edge. So I'll flip it around and just trim off the edge so it's nice and even. And now I'll cut this tube, each of the tubes, into 15 1 1/4 inch mini tubes, you could call them. So I'll just use my ruler and I'll line it up at the 1 1/4 mark. And I'll continue that with this tube and then with my second tube as well. And you'll have about 2 inches left from each of your tubes. And I'll just save that and set it aside. I have 2 piles of 15 little tubes. So now what I'll do is I will stack them with my fabric number 1 to the right on top. I'll set one of my stacks aside and I'll just work with my first stack. Now take the first tube off your stack. Again, we have fabric number 1 to the right, and behind that is your fabric number 6. And either with scissors or a rotary cutter, we're going to cut right on our seam line here. And I just use my scissors. And just, you know, as long as you have a nice sharp pair of fabric scissors, cut it like so, and then open it up. I have my first strip with fabric number 1 on the top, and I just like to give it a quick little press because there's one seam that didn't get pressed earlier. So all of our seams are going down, and now I'll place that in the center of my work area. Now take your next 2 tubes, and again we have wrong sides facing us, and we're simply going to fold fabric number 1 in half like so. And what we need to do is match up this seam and this seam. And again, this seam I did not press earlier, so I'll just give it a little finger press here. And that'll make it easier to match up my seams. So I'm just matching up and matching up. And once you have it nicely matched, you can either press this or use a roller, a seam roller, and I have this one that I use all the time from Violet Craft. And you just roll it and make a crease. Now I'll take my scissors and I will cut right on my crease. And open it to right side out. I'll take my second tube, same thing, I'm working with fabric number 1, fold it in half, give that little seam a finger press, match up my seams, that one is good, and that one is good. I'll use my roller, and again use my scissors, and cut right on that crease and open. Now as I go, I like to press the tubes again, flatten them out, just makes it a little bit easier later when I'm sewing them together. And then place them on each side of my center tube, or now my center strip. Now take your next 2 tubes and you want to fold it so fabric number 2 is on the far right position, like so. Now we have fabric 2 and fabric 1. On both of these we're going to cut on the seam. One. And 2, and press. All of your seams are going down, and position those on each side. So one here and one here. Now take 2 more, and since we just had fabric number 2 all the way to the right, and we cut the seam, now that means this time we'll be cutting fabric number 2 in half. So just like we did before, match up the seams, and then crease. I'll use my roller again, and cut on my crease. I'll repeat with my second one. Press them already, 1 on each side, and if you get confused at all, you just want to make sure that your seam allowances are going in the downward direction. And you just continue in that pattern. So now we're up to fabric number 3. So I'll pull 2 of those off, 2 of the tubes. I'll put fabric number 3 to the far right. And when you first start with your new fabric, which is fabric number 3, you always cut on the seam. You just keep going with your pattern, so 1 of those on each side. And we're still working with fabric number 3, so I'll pull 2 more out of the stack, put fabric number 3 to the far right. And since last time I cut on the seam line, this time I'll cut in the middle. So it's just the same thing. Match up the seam, crease, and cut on the crease. And you guessed it, we're on fabric number 4, so I'll bring 2 of my tubes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll have 4 to the right, and I'll cut them both on their seam line. And we're down to our last 2 tubes. Again, we're still working on fabric number 4, so we'll make sure that's all the way to the right. Since I cut on the seam line before, this time I'll cut in the middle. Match up the seam, crease, and cut. And I'll repeat that with my last tube. Now I'll sew all my strips together, and I'll start on my left-hand side with my half here and my full piece here, and it's just right sides together. A 1/4 inch seam allowance right down here, and making sure your seams again are going down. And we're not matching up any seams at this point, this first row. We're just making sure the top and the bottom are nice and evenly matched. My first 2 sewn together, and I'm not going to press now. I'll wait until I've sewn them all together, and then I'll press. Now the 3rd strip, right sides together. Now you do have some seams that you can use to match up. So this seam here, you'll want to match with your very first seam here. And the same here, here and here, here and here. And here's where I said I would match up as I go. And I get through that seam, match up. And I'm just matching here to here. I'll continue sewing these strips together off camera. It's the same thing. I just go 1 strip at a time, right sides together. Match up this seam to that seam. All the strips are sewn together for my half, and to press, you want to press from the wrong side. So here's the center of the quilt. So from the back, with the center up, you want to press to the left, all the seams. So just take your time and press. And then place it on the right side up and press. And you put together the other half exactly the same as we just did this, and I'll do that off camera. And after piecing together the second half, you want to press it the same exact way you did the first half. You'll press from the back, have the center on the top, and press toward the left. I have both of my halves completed. Before I sew them together, I'll just do a little what's called a sliver trim on the top and the bottom of each piece. To join the 2 sides together, I'll place them right sides together. And because of the way I pressed, I have the seams going in this direction on this side and the opposite direction on the other side. I need to match up each one of these seams, and you can use pins or glue, or you can just take it to the machine and match as you go. I'll be using some fabric glue, this sew line fabric glue that I've shown before, and I'll just do a dab of glue at each seam right at the top, and then I'll carefully match the seam, and I'll show you this one and I'll do the rest off camera because they're kind of hard to do on camera. So I'll just match it like so, and then pinch, and I'll do that all the way down. I've got all my seams glued, so now what I'll do is a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down. And I'll just use my stiletto to kind of smooth down my seams as I go. And before I press, I'll just check and make sure my seams matched up. And they really did. They look great. I really recommend using the fabric glue for seams that are this close together. It's a lot easier than pins, and it seems more accurate. So I'll set the seam and then give it a press. That completes the center of the miniature quick trip quilt. On my next video, part 2, I'll post in about a week. I'll show you how to add the borders and complete the table runner / wall hanging. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.